What is love? Is it a feeling, a behavior? Is it sex? Or is it just human DNA working to ensure that we procreate and the species survives? Love is one of the most thought about concepts known to man. We all believe we have some kind of idea of what it is, yet it can still be a very complex thing to wrap our heads around and explain. Today, I'm going to share with you what I believe love is, 6 important pillars, as well as answer the top 10 questions I found online about love. My name is Jesse Hawkins. Let's get into it. I had the same ideas of what love is like most people for years. It's that feeling when you really like someone and you're attracted to them. It's the loyalty you feel when you are connected to family, friends, and people who care about you. Love can be romantic and it should always feel good. And falling in love with the right man or woman of your dreams is always going to be a beautiful thing, right? At some point, I realized these weren't great definitions for love. We're not actually defining it. We're describing our experiences, our expressions, and expectations of what love should be based on media and honestly, really bad advice. We're pointing out the attributes and the characteristics of love that appeal to us the most. But those expressions don't really capture the meaning of love or what love is. I got the best definition for love when I told my dad that I would be proposing to my now wife. He asked me a very common question fathers ask their sons. Why do you love her? And why do you want to marry her? Of course, in anticipation of this question, I had thought about it beforehand. I thought of the typical things a guy would say to answer this kind of question. She's smart, nice, caring, loyal, beautiful, supportive, she cares about me, etc., right? But those answers really felt cliche, and I knew there were many other women out there that could meet that criteria. So why her? I wanted to give him the most genuine answer I could so he can give me an honest perspective on my motives. And I actually gave him what I thought was a very underwhelming answer, but the most honest answer I could possibly give him, because I choose her. And I actually remember the slight smirk of approval on his face after I said that. And then he gave me the best definition for love that has stuck with me to this day. Over the years, his answer has actually given me clarity on how to love and how to be loved. And I've received confirmation from many different people in different types of relationships that would actually support this definition. From the love a parent has for their child to the love that supports a marriage for over 60 years. Love is a choice. It's a decision you have to intentionally make and honor. Anything less than that dilutes the potency of love and may not be real love in the first place. We use the word love in so many scenarios. How we feel about our favorite food, people, or interest. We misuse it so much, it's lost its meaning and has become less sought after in today's society. In different relationships, love is and should be expressed differently. And that's how often we describe when we try to define love. But the thing is, the description of love, it's complex. It doesn't follow the rules of survival or fairness or the expectations of today's society. Real love opens us up to a world of both pain and joy and would have us endure experiences many people seem not to be willing to tolerate these days. But when love is real, it is the biggest blessing and it is completely worth it. Some people believe that love requires lust or attraction and some form of attachment. You know how you can meet someone and you're physically attracted to them and it feels like you just can't possibly get enough of them. Sounds like the beginning of every love story to me. But what happens when our appearance begins to change because of time? Lust fades, attraction can weaken, and the attachment for one person can easily be replaced by the attachment for another. On a biological level, love sometimes is described as a chemical reaction. Dopamine and oxytocin just swirling around in our brains causing those feelings of pleasure and attachment. Some scientists might even say love is just a combination of neurochemical responses designed to help us form social bonds and reproduce. In this view, love is essentially a way for the human species to just survive. But even scientists have to admit there's more to love than just chemicals. What happens when the dopamine rush wears off and those reactions become our new baseline? Or what if we unintentionally get those same responses for someone we're not supposed to love? Is it possible that all we're feeling is lust or infatuation? Real love doesn't burn out after that initial dopamine high wears off. It's consistent and enduring. Real love doesn't betray us so easily. When a mother gives birth, she experiences an increase in oxytocin, the love hormone. In most cases, as long as she's breastfeeding, she'll continue to experience that increase. But the love for her child extends way beyond that period of breastfeeding. So it can't be as simple as a chemical response, can it? Society often paints love as this idealistic fairy tale-like experience. We're constantly bombarded with messages about finding the one or how love will complete us in some way. Movies and songs, they will reinforce this idea that love is about perfection and happiness, and that when you meet the right person, everything somehow is going to magically be better and fall into place. But the truth is, as great as love is, it's far from perfect. It's messy, it requires sacrifice and a great deal of energy. Real love is the highest and purest form of connection. It's unconditional, constant, and it should transcend your feelings. It overwhelms hate, it can overwhelm anger, and it can even be shown to someone you actually don't trust. It's having the best interest for someone else as your priority over your own desires, and still giving them the space to exercise their own will. It's really impossible to talk about real love without referring to the love of God. Because in my opinion, God is love. God's love isn't based on what we do or how we look or even how we act towards Him. It's a decision He's made time and time again to love us unconditionally. And that's what real love looks like. Real love has certain characteristics and traits that actually help us identify it, like kindness, respect, and compassion. There are actually many pillars I could discuss for real love, but for today's purposes, I've narrowed it down to 6 that are just an absolute requirement. Now, before I share those, share with me in the comments what you think the important pillars of love are. I'm really interested in hearing your perspective before I share mine. I think we all can actually agree real love isn't passive. It's an active choice. It's not enough just to feel love. We have to demonstrate it with action. Each of these pillars I'll discuss builds on the idea that love requires us to make intentional choices that lead us to action. The first pillar is selflessness. Real love demands that we put others' needs before our own. Now, this doesn't mean we neglect loving ourselves, but understand that real love is about giving, not receiving. There has to be an absence of self-interest when loving others. To lay down your life, your will, and your desires for someone else, literally and or metaphorically, is the greatest act of love someone can possibly do. And when you're selfless, you actually open yourself up to the next pillar, which is vulnerability. Love involves taking certain risks, which means letting someone into your life and becoming a part of theirs. Being that close to anyone is going to expose you to the possibility of being hurt, even unintentionally. When people are learning and growing from the journey of life, they're going to unintentionally hurt the people that are closest to them. And when you're supporting someone that you actually love, their pain somehow becomes your pain. And it's something you have to be willing to bear along with them. Even though vulnerability will open you up to very painful experiences sometimes, it is journeying through that pain with someone that you love that's going to bond us closer together and help us build that trust. Only by exposing our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities and insecurities can we actually build and work on those areas so we can actually become stronger. Part of what we find so painful in real love, at least for myself, can sometimes be hearing or telling the truth. So honesty is going to be the third pillar. Being transparent and truthful with those that you love, even when the truth hurts, is an absolute requirement. It's easy to avoid the tough conversations, but love requires us to be upfront with each other for us to grow the relationship. Too often, we surround ourselves these days with people who don't want to be honest with us, because they don't want to hurt our feelings, or they fear that we may resent them and put some type of distance between them and ourselves. But if we behave in this way, we would be thinking of ourselves and not loving by that first pillar, which again is selflessness. So honesty within love will allow people to avoid embarrassment in their life. It'll allow them to avoid making mistakes, wasting time, and allow them to gain more respect for the person that's actually telling them the truth. Respect is actually another pillar I believe is needed for love, but that's not one that I'll focus on for today. The next pillar is commitment, which really solidifies real love. Once selflessness, vulnerability, and honesty are in place, love requires a decision to stick with that person through thick and thin, and stick with the decision to remain selfless, to remain vulnerable, and to remain honest. Commitment is really saying, I'm here for you, no matter what, even when my emotions don't align with love. This doesn't mean in some relationships you won't need space at times, but I would argue that you can absolutely be committed to loving someone and know that the best thing for them at moments in their journey is to give them a little space so they can learn to rely on a more reliable source and actually grow. This is what makes real love so safe and helps eliminate the fear someone has when they take on the risk of showing love. Once you've decided to be committed, you have to also decide to be forgiving, which makes forgiveness our fifth pillar. As we discussed, love is going to bring challenges, disagreements, and mistakes that are going to be painful. So forgiveness is needed to hold it all together. Without forgiveness, love is going to easily be broken. And it's actually impossible to love someone when you're holding on to resentment or anger in your heart. It's something you have to release. And sometimes you have to choose to forgive someone over and over and over again. Choosing to continuously forgive will allow love to move forward and grow prosperously. Now again, continuous forgiveness doesn't mean that you forget the harm someone has done to you and you behave in a stupid way and just keep allowing someone to hurt you in that same exact way. We all need to have boundaries and some self-love as well. But you can still let that anger in your heart go so you can act in the best interest of the person you're trying to love, which in some cases is actually learning to love someone from a distance. Finally, the sixth pillar is patience. Patience is what allows love to grow and become so much stronger over time. Relationships take work, and people need time to grow and form new behaviors and habits. Patience allows us to approach love with the best intentions and mindset. It allows us to focus on the best solutions and not just the quickest. Real love is patient and it is kind. Now, all of these pillars are needed for love, in my opinion. Without these pillars, love can become very transactional. It will become about what we can gain and what's best for us instead of what's best for the other person that we're trying to love, which means our acts of love are only going to come on the condition that our desires or needs are being met on a regular basis, which actually isn't love at all. That's the fulfillment of a contract. So what do you guys think about these pillars? Share with me your thoughts down here in the comments and add your perspective to the conversation. Now, With those pillars in mind, I'm going to go ahead and answer the top 10 questions asked online about love. Number 1, what is love? Love is a choice to behave in a way that prioritizes the best interest of the one who is being loved in spite of our own personal interests or emotions. Number 2, how do I know if I'm in love? You know you're in love when you're confident that you can prioritize the interest of the person you're choosing to love when your emotions completely do not match the act of love. Number 3, what is the difference between love and infatuation? Infatuation is a strong feeling of interest that you have for someone. Love is an intentional decision to prioritize their needs. Number 4, how can I maintain love in a long-term relationship? By choosing to be a person of integrity and continuing to behave from a place of love even when your emotions don't match. Number 5, is it possible to love more than one person at the same time? In my opinion, it's absolutely possible to love more than one person at the same time. But depending on the kind of relationships, that's going to be a choice that can definitely bring conflict if it's not properly managed. Number 6, how do I deal with heartbreak or the end of a relationship? I think by understanding, even letting someone go so that they can find a better path or person is actually an act of love. So what has to be done is another choice needs to be made to intentionally let them go and then learn from that experience and take the opportunity to grow personally and learn to love yourself even more. Number 7, what role does communication play in love? Communication plays a huge role in love. There is absolutely no other way to learn and to discover if the person you're thinking about loving is even worthy of your love, or to remain in love with that person over time without effective communication. Effective communication is going to help you discover the best actions to take for that person that you love. Number 8, can love be unconditional? Real love has to be unconditional. Otherwise, again, it's not love, and it's simply an arrangement or a contract, and it's completely transactional. Number 9, what are the different types of love? In my opinion, there's only one type of love, and that's the love of God. Number 10, how can I improve my capacity to love? I think you can become better at making decisions, become more selfless and practice vulnerability, become someone of integrity. You want to learn how to forgive often and to forgive quickly and work on being more patient. Essentially, to improve your capacity to love, you need to build the character of someone with a greater capacity for love by exercising the pillars that characterize love. At the end of the day, love is one of the most beautiful, powerful forces in existence. It fulfills our instinctual desire to be valued, but it can also be very misunderstood. We often mistake attraction and emotions for love, but those things fade and waver over time. Real love, the kind that endures, is a decision. It's a gift from God that we can only understand fully by continuously learning to put aside our own desires and focus on serving the interest of others. True love requires action. It's easy to say you love someone when things are going well, but love shows up when things get hard, when your emotions don't match the actions of love, when sacrifice is needed, and when putting someone else's well-being above your own feels like the biggest challenge in the world. The greatest command that God gave us was to love the Lord with all our heart. And the second was to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Now, for some of us, we may need to love them a little bit better than we love ourselves, but that's a different topic for a different day. But the fact that it's a command given to us means that we only have two options: to do it or not to do it. Either way, that makes love a choice. I hope this video has given you some clarity about what love really is and how to love yourself, others, and God with a greater capacity. Now, before you go, I'd love to hear from you. What's your takeaway on love? How have you experienced or struggled with it in the past? And what misconceptions about love do you feel need to be addressed? Drop your thoughts in the comments so we can keep the conversation going and continue to grow together. And if you found this video valuable, make sure to tap the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and share this video with someone you think might benefit from hearing about real love. Remember, love is an absolute choice, so let's all choose wisely, all right? Go take advantage of all the opportunity life gives you to grow and have a victorious day. Peace.